Guys, we're back.
We're back.
We are back.
Hands in the air like you just don't care. 211 podcast. Coming at ya. Yeah. We all have some fantastic shirts on. I'm noticing.
Yes.
Alex, what are you rocking here today?
I don't know. It's a nice Hawaiian shirt with my Ice Cube t-shirt on.
I like it.
Ready for vacation.
Ready for vacation.
It's vacation weather, let me tell you.
It is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Burning hot. What about you, Daniel? I see some classic Mickey Mouse Steamboat.
Mickey Mouse, yes.
Yeah, little black.
Love it. Classic black and white.
Yeah, that's great. You ever played Kingdom Hearts 2?
You know, I think we've talked about this before. The all-in-one package is like $50. I don't know why I'm not getting it.
Man, so the reason I bring up Kingdom Hearts is because I bought the Kingdom Hearts 3's on Game Pass, and they just added the other two remixes, and it's annoying because I bought them last month. I'm like, you really just put them on Game Pass? Well, anyway, but because in Kingdom Hearts 2, there's a level, you can go to like Halloween Town, and it changes the appearance of your character. It's really like to match the art style, and there's one where you go back to like the Steamboat Willie age of Mickey Mouse, and like your characters look like that too, and you see Silent Mickey. It's really, really cool. But I mean, we'll get straight to it. Normally we have a bit more shenanigans, but we got a jam-packed episode here today. Then we'll probably at the end of the show, we'll talk about what we're doing next week for our next hockey-centered podcast. Maybe a bit of a special little broadcast. We'll get to it, though. But, lads, we'll start off talking about Dan Carcillo, who is... he is leading a class action lawsuit against the CHL, and he's just put up, not just put up, but a few days ago he put up a statement on Twitter. We'll just give it a quick little read here. Quote, I commenced a class proceeding today against the Canadian Hockey League and its leagues and teams. It's on behalf of underage minors who suffered violent hazing, physical and sexual assault, and psychological trauma by playing major junior hockey. I was one of those kids when I played in the OHL. I know there are many just like me. I believe this case will give those who are abused a chance to be heard. In my experience, sharing stories of abuse is part of the healing process. It allows a person to take the power back. I also believe that this lawsuit will create real positive change in Canadian junior hockey. This type of abuse has nothing to do with the sport, and it needs to stop. Starting with you, Alex, because you mentioned the fact that we've been hearing change when it comes to hazing. When we talked about the Kitchener Ranger stuff last episode. What do you make of this? Another class action lawsuit against the CHL.
So it's Dan Carcillo and Garrett Taylor. Those are the two players heading the lawsuit. What I find so... I don't know what the word I'm looking for, because it's just extremely weird. I don't remember what day it was on, but they were talking about this incident on Hockey Central, and they're saying, how it's hazing is being phased out of or it's illegal in the CHL. But like, obviously Dan Carcillo's incident were a while back, right? So, okay. But then you hear the Eric Guest incident, and then you hear all these other things that come out, and it's not like this was something. A lot of these incidents are happening in the 80s or in the 90s or even the early 2000s, but they're recent. So if it's happening, you're not doing your job. If you're the CHL and these things continue to come out and you're not changing a single thing, you're not doing your job properly.
Mm-hmm. Daniel.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. It's just, Eric Guest comes up. We hear a few things too. And, it's just going through the years, like Akeem Alou, that was like 2007 or before 2007 to 2005, I believe. And then even like further back with Dan Carcillo. And like on the hockey news where everything's kind of outlined by Ken Campbell about what's kind of happening, like including like goaltender Ryan Mintz, I believe. He's bringing up a lot of things, and it's just, as you go through all of the stuff that's kind of happened, like including all like the problems with the showers, saying that the coach was there, just laughed it off in a way. It's just like that whole thing of bringing it back to, the culture question in a way of what's what's like these perceived things of like what's for hockey and what's not for hockey. Like one example he kind of brought up was Mintz talked about how he will add his name in the lawsuit with Taylor and Carcillo, and he kind of mentioned it, like the crazy things, like he wrote a letter saying he was suicidal at the time, and his teammates kind of just crumpled it up, and they never talked about it again in practice. Second thing is, you know, Mintz is Jewish, and they kind of made a joke about it. Like, one alleged incident was they put black tape on his nose to like as like a Hitler impersonation kind of thing, and these kind of things where they would just laugh it off, and it would just never be spoken again of in like practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this year, and I feel like I've said this multiple times on the podcast before, but I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it every single time something like this comes up until there's someone does something about it. This year has shown all the problems that are in hockey, or most of the problems, because there's probably more. We all knew, okay, it was one of those problems that we knew but didn't know, because we were told that, the CHL says there's no hazing. So we all assume that hazing is going to be phased out of the game. And then we have the Brendan Leipzig incident. But then it's like, is he the only one who's actually like this? Like, you even think about, have you ever seen Letterkenny? And I understand it's satirical, but have you ever seen the show? Like, think about how they show the hockey players in the most stereotypical Canadian hockey player type way. And I get it, it's satirical, but that's how we all perceive hockey players. There's a reason they're doing it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's a lot of issues.
Yeah. One common thing I always found, like, we've gone through it so many times, and, like Jeff Perry's kind of the center at this right now, the former coach of Carcillo's, and it's that thing where, he stood idly by, and it's kind of thing he exacerbated in a way. Like, these are a bunch of like 15, 16-year-old, 17-year-old guys, and it's the kind of thing where, yeah, like maybe like they become jerky guys, but it was led by example. It just, they allowed this type of environment to kind of keep on going like this, and it's something that they had no effort in trying to change.
The crazy thing for me is, and I can't remember where I heard this, but the mentality is because it happened to me, I have to do it to the next guy.
Yeah,
that makes no sense to me.
It's like a false sense of rite of passage.
It's like, because I got hazed, you have to get hazed.
Mm.
I don't see how that makes any sense.
It doesn't.
It doesn't, right? Like, it's just such a, and I get it. Like, people have, like, I guarantee, like, I can't guarantee it, but like, there's probably it's traumatic. Like, if I'm imagine what someone like Eric Guest goes through. And then he does it to and maybe he did or he didn't. But if he did it to the next group of people, it's traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, sorry,
go ahead, Daniel.
One thing is just like, I don't know, it is probably a random thought, has no probably too much substance to it. But the one thing I think about is these incidents have happened on like the Sarnia Sting. And it's like these guys were, I'm not saying Carcillo was a bad player or anything. It just, he was like maybe like that like the scoring enforcer in a way.
Yeah.
He could add some depth scoring, but like, these are the coming years of, someone like, I don't know, Steven Stamkos coming out of this program. Like, he hasn't said anything. That's
a very good point. And there wasn't probably a guy with bigger influence when he played in his league than Steven Stamkos.
Yeah.
That's a very, very good point. And
but you're not going to see. Sorry, Adam, go.
No, you're right. No, you're not going to see these players, because I don't think Steven Stamkos has even said anything about the Black Lives Matter stuff. Or am I?
I don't know about that.
Well, the point generally is, like, you've seen Akeem Alou this year say that, like, how much had to happen for stars who are not visible minorities to come out and say something. This year has been the first time I've ever really seen it happen. And not only did it take the Akeem Alou stuff, it also took the George Floyd stuff and everything else going around the world. And
yeah.
No,
I was just gonna say, like, it's not even because they're quiet players. Like, I guess it's another stereotype, but a lot of these star hockey players tend to be quiet.
No.
Like, the guys in Toronto are kind of an exception.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
we know everything about them.
McDavid you don't hear a whole lot from McDavid. You don't hear a whole lot from Crosby. In Crosby's generation, Ovechkin is really the outlier because he's the one who just likes to talk.
Yeah. It's, it is very much we can sit here and recognize, it's like Akeem Alou said in his player tribune piece. It's just how hockey players are sort of raised, especially no league produces more NHLers than the CHL does. Yes, the past few years had more Europeans. Last year's draft, of course, you had all the American prospects, but still it is a Canadian sport. And it's up to them to change because it has to start in junior. And I don't know about you guys, but I can't imagine what it's like to, at such a young age, 15, 16, to be brought into a bathroom. So you have to do cocaine. Everything that happened to Akeem Alou, I can't imagine what it's like to go through that stuff.
The only thing I really question is, yes, it starts with junior, but is junior going to be the first set of leagues to implement it? And I don't think that's the case. I really think it starts from the top, and it has to trickle its way down.
I think that's fair, yeah. Because, it starts with, if you start seeing the biggest names in hockey, you see a Matthews or a McDavid start saying something, then that should say something. And again, if you see I think it's the Black Lives. Daniel, you know exactly what it was called because I know you really want to talk about it. That Evander Akeem Alou.
The Hockey Diversity Alliance.
Yes.
Yeah, like that is, and I believe players in the MLB might have just done one as well, or.
I think MLS. I'll find out.
MLS, but the point is, if you start seeing these type of groups start forming in these major leagues, then it's going to cause a trickle-down effect. Again, as you say, Alex, yeah, it does need to start there. But at the same time, I do think there needs to be – I think you can make an argument for both because you can rarely say how much more influence a player's life is going to be, affected than in junior. You talk about, like, Nick Ehlers was on 31 Thoughts before the season started talking about, like, he wished he could go back to, playing in Moose Jaw because it was such a great time. And, like, again, I think your teenage years are probably your most influential ones. I can tell you now, like, and I think all three of us can agree that neither of us did the amount of growing that we did, in our teenage years. Like, think of how much we probably changed. I'll ask you this: did you guys like yourselves at 16?
No,
I didn't. Now imagine you add in everything that's happening to these hockey players to it. It's going to shape the rest of your life.
Sure.
And the crazy thing is especially the guys who are coming out of CHL. I don't know what it's like in the US, but you're not in school. Like, as much as they want to say we have a program, and I bet they have a program, and I don't know how well it is. I've never heard anything about it, but I don't think it's the same.
No.
Like, I feel like they're missing out on these things, and what they're doing is they're playing hockey, practicing, training, doing schoolwork, and then getting partying.
And there's a heavy asterisk on schoolwork.
Yeah.
Very heavy asterisk on schoolwork. Like I'd love to know what a typical NCAA player's grades are like. Let's say a football player, because then the NHL ones are a bit different. I'd love to look at their grades and be like, I wonder how.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues. Question marks, especially in football and basketball. Hockey, I've never heard anything about hockey.
That's your John Scott. That guy actually had the 4.0 in engineering.
Did he?
Yeah.
Damn, that guy's a genius.
There's a few of those hockey players that are like just it's insane that like they're kind of like the roses that grow through the cracks of the concrete. Like,
I know Kerfoot went to Harvard. Now, who's the other? Was it? There's another player, and I don't remember what
Jimmy
team he
VC?
plays for, that went to Harvard.
Jimmy VC?
Is it Jimmy VC?
I think so.
the
Oh,
one Jack Edwards
And-
told him to throw his degree away when the Bruins faced him or something.
a couple smart NHL players, man.
Mhm.
I'm sure there are more of them.
Oh, before we move on, just confirming, Stamkos did comment on George Floyd and Black Lives Matter on his Twitter on June 2nd.
All right, then I'll take that back. That's my mistake. But still, yeah, I think it still says something about the fact that that's around the time he was in. And again, how often do you, again, into what Alex was saying, do you hear from those players? I don't want to take away.
Rarely.
I apologize. I should have done my due diligence instead of saying something random there. So, sorry, Steven.
You are rarely going to hear something, and it's not even because they're quiet. It's because of how hockey works. And if you say one wrong thing, it's like a boys' club. You say one wrong thing, and you're out.
It's like Eric Guest said. He didn't want to mention any of the names in his situation because he knew he'd never play in the NHL again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think we should move on now. Again, we're trying to keep the podcast in a more condensed sort of format here. Phase 2, guys, has been a bit of a rocky road for the NHL.
Yeah.
We've had, I think it came out on Friday that of 200 plus players tested, 11 have tested positive for COVID-19.
Sorry, were they tested multiple times? Is that what it was? It wasn't they were tested once.
Yeah, I think it's twice a week, is it not?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So of their last round of testing, I'm just going off of the statement they released on Friday. 11 of 200 plus were tested. Were tested positive. 3 of those players belong to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who also have had some staff members test positive. Now, 2 things here. First of all, it's not really a surprise going on. Tampa Bay is one of the places in the States where cases are starting to spike again. And again, I think the league would be insane if they weren't planning for a situation like this. Now, Tampa Bay have closed facilities. Even the Jays, who have a training facility, yes, they've closed that as well. It is, guys, were you surprised, first of all, that we did see a case like this come out where it seems to be like a team maybe having to take a step back or two here?
No. And, I think they knew what they were doing. You don't like, even Dana White came out and said it when they went into their first card, like official card, in Jacksonville. A fighter and 2 cornermen tested positive, and the fight still went on. Why? Because they planned for saying that's why there's so much extensive planning going on, right? You have to plan for 1, 2, 3, or however many players are going to test positive, right? So to me, this doesn't come as a surprise.
Mm-hmm. Daniel, what about you? Because I wonder now how Tampa's video of the boys are back and that jet ski type montage looks now.
I think, they really jumped the gun on this. I think that, what I liked about phase 2 was, we're going to be gradual about all these things, but I think, it's the kind of thing where you kind of let certain things open and everyone kind of just jumps at that opportunity. Like one example I'm going to use the league is, I don't know, like I drove downtown recently and you know how like things are really limited in terms of
is anything
opening or how many people should be in a certain place. Like it felt like a regular. Oh, there's certain stores open, I think, like up until 6 or 7, but it felt like a regular day. There's so many people outside. There's so many people. I drove by Christie Pitts.
Yeah.
There's crowds. Like there's people playing baseball. It's the kind of thing where there's some leeway that's happening here.
Yeah.
But, I think once that happens, people are saying like, oh, things are open or, let's get things ready. Sports are back. But now what I kind of feel is like, I guess they kind of learned their lesson in this. Like, okay, let's scale it back a bit and see where did we go wrong or, what are these changes we can do to be a bit more safe going forward? Because like the cases are coming out like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the issue. I don't have an issue with how they put it out because you have 6 players and 1 coach.
Mhm.
How much smaller do you want them to start practicing, right? Like that's my mentality. Whether they started too soon or started like they should have started later. That's a different question. But to scale it back even more, like what are you going to do? Have 2 players and they're just get passed the puck back and forth? That's the issue for me in scaling it back. I think the question is, did you start too early? And do you look at, like, my thing is why have them practice in their own city? You pick your hub city and you figure it out.
Yeah, that was kind of weird to me. Like the Raptors and like the Blue Jays, they're being sent to Florida.
Well, the Raptors are going to Florida early because that's where it's going to be, right? But if I'm the NHL, I know one place is going to be Vegas. Like, that's all but confirmed by the NHL, and then we're still looking for what the second one is going to be. Now, is it a matter of – I don't know what the rink situation is like in Edmonton or the rink situation is like in Vancouver or Chicago. Is there not enough rinks there to say, hey, these teams are practicing this day, these teams are practicing that day, and you alternate it and you figure out a schedule there? Like, to me, it didn't make sense to say, okay, you all go disperse to your cities and then wait about a month and then collect in your hub cities and not expect there to be an issue. And I feel like we haven't heard enough from the NHL about what, like, yes, we know you're being tested, right? Bettman said phase 2, you're tested twice a week, phase 3 and phase 4. Phase 3, you're tested more, and then phase 4, you're going to be tested every single day. But I feel like we're still missing, like, are they allowed to go home? Are they still confined? Like, is it a bubble or is it not a bubble? Because if it's not a bubble, you're asking for it.
I'm gonna agree with you there, Alex. Sorry, Dan the man, because it's just in a few weeks we're supposed to be starting this training camp, and if you're not already at a phase where you need to have more than a few people on the ice, I don't know how you can expect a jump into training camp with an extended roster and 50 groups of people. That's I think you have a bit of an issue there. And again, it's difficult to say if they started late because of everything going on.
No, they started early. That's what I meant.
Early. It is. You cannot. I'm sure no one expected Tampa to just jump as much. Well, some people did, but I mean, I think it also kind of looks worse on Tampa about that. I joked about it, but that video they made that you took the time to shoot the boys reuniting and messing around on the jet skis. I thought that was a bit. It was funny. It was funny when it first happened, but now it does not. Like, hindsight is 20/20, obviously.
Yeah.
But it does not look good on Tampa Bay.
Let's just pause for a second here. Daniel left the call, so.
Guys, technical difficulties aside, it may not look great for Tampa with that boys are back in town video. But there is someone else in the world of sport media, especially in hockey, that's been getting a bit of a rough time, and I guess we'll talk.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about whether he deserves it or not. And I'm going to get my notes up here because I'm going to be very careful. Okay.
I want to get libeled here. Okay.
Steve Simmons. Well, it'd be slander because we're talking, right?
Oh, slander. Sorry, yeah. My bad.
Like James Jones Jameson. Libel is written, slander is spoken. What a great guy. Anyway, so Steve Simmons reported, emphasis on his breaking story, that Toronto Maple Leafs player, you might have heard of him, Auston Matthews, tested positive for COVID-19. Now, the Toronto Maple Leafs did make a statement, but they did not confirm anything. And what you really need to know from the article is that they emphasized privacy. And I will also say that since the NHL have, started this return to play phase, and every time there has been news of whether it was Pittsburgh, Colorado, Ottawa, of cases and players testing positive.
Arizona, don't forget
Arizona as well. we have never heard a name.
Yeah.
So, guys,
In hockey.
in
In
hockey,
hockey, yeah.
Let's just be clear.
I should emphasize that because obviously you may have heard Rudy Gobert had COVID. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was
Kevin
on.
Durant.
Yes, Kevin Durant. That was a massive one. Tom Hanks. Remember that? Even though we
Yeah.
don't.
Rita Wilson.
Who doesn't love Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson? But anyway.
I just watched Sleeps in Seattle. Sorry, just a random
that's
thing.
fine. So let's be careful here. And for once, instead of just being guys who are doing this podcast, helping maybe add to a portfolio, we love yelling at each other about hockey. Well, Daniel may not like when we yell at each other because he just wants to talk and we don't let him. But we are kind of uniquely qualified to talk about this, as Daniel is in the master's program at journalism. Sorry, is doing in the journalism program, doing his master's. Big deal.
Cool
Thanks
guy.
for coming. And then Alex and I as well have just finished our second year at Ryerson Journalism as well. And second year had a very much an emphasis on ethics and that, I would say.
Even the course you take in the fall, Adam. Yeah.
Yes.
The one that you have to take in the mandatory course.
Yeah. So we are actually in a good position to talk about this, guys. So I'll guess we'll start off and we'll go to the Masters man. No big deal. Thanks for coming. We'll go to the Masters man, Daniel, first. Your thoughts on Steve Simmons reporting that not a Maple Leafs player, but naming Auston Matthews?
I think when I first read it, it's you take it as just the regular reader where it's like, oh man, look at that headline. But when you scale back onto it, you kind of go through it and everything. It just kind of it just feels weird to me. If the team didn't kind of confirm it, then that they don't do it. It was reading through it, it would have been great if he's hey, by the way, I confirmed with the Matthews family or something that this information is going out or anything. But it's just kind of crazy where two things I kind of find is I don't know, it is a bit unethical, I think, to kind of approach it in this way, because when you kind of gave other teams this kind of fair shot of saying, we're not going to release the names, it's kind of it doesn't really sit well with me. And the second thing I kind of have with it is, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, but this is the Toronto Sun.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's they're known for these punchy.
Like the Toronto Sun? Is that what you're saying? That's what it sounds like.
They're known for these punchy headlines to kind of grab your attention in a way. And the way the articles are written, it's not two things. What we learned in school, how they taught us how to write, not at all. Second, it's just those type of grab your attention kind of things. It just so happens they have had topics like this in the past, but it just kind of so happens that for them to be the ones to break the story just doesn't sit well with me.
It's like TMZ breaking a sports story.
Kind of, in a way, yeah.
I feel like TSN got in trouble for. I mean,
TMZ.
I think TMZ, got in trouble for doing something around COVID earlier. Well, they always get in trouble for everything.
Well, I remember they broke the Kobe story.
Yes,
and I didn't believe it.
Yeah, same here.
I thought they were just messing around.
And then they didn't even tell the family, right?
I don't think so. See, so when it comes to that was I didn't believe it, but
sorry, go on, Alex.
Back to the Matthews one is, I'd love to go back and listen to it, but a specific company decided to take the interview down with Steve Simmons. I'm not going to say who, but
not TMZ, but
not TMZ.
Another team.
I can't remember what he said specifically. I got the impression that he did contact the team beforehand, releasing the story. He had his story lawyered. I believe he said he had two sources that confirmed it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right at all. I'm not saying
it's a bit wonky writing, I think. It's just one source said, our sources outside the league says. It just, the way it was written too, it just kind of throws you off in a way.
The thing I have with what's going on is it whether it's right or wrong about it being reported. I think all three of us can agree that it is wrong, right?
Absolutely.
And to pretend that it didn't happen would it wouldn't make sense to me at least. Like, that's my opinion, that to pretend that he didn't report it and not talk about him reporting it.
Okay.
Right? Like,
Yeah. It's info. Sorry to interrupt you, Alex, but when we talked about this last night, I think I texted you guys and said, so when we talk about this, do we want to just say a Leafs player, or do we want to mention Matthews' name? And you're, Alex, saying then with not talking about it is not. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, if I think we word it carefully, right? That was kind of my explanation. Say Steve Simmons reported in his latest story that Auston Matthews tested positive for COVID from his sources. But to sit like, why pretend that it didn't happen? Like, he was on. I'm not gonna he was on overdrive. I'm just gonna say it. He was on overdrive, and then I sent you guys the messages about what he was talking about, and then I think Adam, you went to look for the interview
a few hours later,
and then it wasn't on. It wasn't on online, and then they didn't put hour one from that episode.
Oh no,
which he was the first guest. So if it was such an issue, then don't have Steve Simmons on. You call the producer of Overdrive and say don't have Steve Simmons on. Don't do it later. But whatever. I guess I don't know anything about sport media producing. But that's fine. I think my issue with this entire situation, other than it being wrong, is that you can't have best of both worlds in this situation. Like, don't pretend that this is the first time that a name has been reported not from the team. Let's talk like Rudy Gobert. I went back. Who reported Rudy Gobert? Because I'm thinking I never remember the team reporting Rudy Gobert first. So I went and I looked for it. So it was The Athletic.
Oh, okay.
So we knew Rudy Gobert was out with an illness. That's all we knew.
Yeah.
He wasn't playing against I don't remember who. OKC, because he was out with an illness. Then The Athletic reported that he tested positive for coronavirus. Then obviously the team confirmed it. So no one batted an eye there. Then Ezekiel Elliott from the Dallas Cowboys. Let's see. The Associated Press, a person with direct knowledge of the diagnosis told the Associated Press that Elliott had the positive test about a week ago and could be described as symptomatic. His agent confirmed it a week later. So, yeah, the agent it ended up getting confirmed after the report was put out there. So, which one is it? Do you want it's wrong, but you can't. I think, in my opinion, there's a lot of Leaf fans who are bitter. Like, you can't say, oh, it's like we know this guy, and then trash on the guy because he did something bad, but not say anything about the reporter. And then have Auston Matthews come out, have no idea of the situation of how he got it, if he broke quarantine, whatever he did, but trash the reporter. You have to have it both. You can't have it one way or the other.
It's because it was Steve Simmons.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think because of his past reputation, especially, and it starts. I think, the whole Phil Kessel incident. I think that plays a huge part in it. I think it plays a huge part in it. But that's my opinion. Whether you like it or not, I don't care.
All right. And as Mike pointed out last week, and I'll do it again, Alex was so passionate about that he had to take a drink of water to collect it. It is. Yeah, like you said, we don't need to debate whether it was good or bad. Yeah, even though I kind of want to say, it was pretty bad. I'm not a Steve Simmons fan. It always speaks volumes to you when TSN have their trade deadline, and he's at not the first table of experts, not the second, but he's in the third that they cut to once every 2 hours. That's all I have to say.
But before we go,
go ahead.
Do we expect to not ask Steve Simmons to be a guest on the show?
Adam, I think, already banned him.
Okay.
No.
When we started the show, I feel like Adam already had a list of names that were banned from the show.
I think I'd have him on, but I don't know how long it would take.
Oh yeah, we've definitely had this
Simmons,
conversation
What's
Beach
before.
Wells. I don't know.
Did we say?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, well, like if Steve would, I would love to have Steve Simmons on this show, but I just don't know how long I could take it without ripping my hair out.
Okay.
Because he obviously he does this for the clicks, but then at some point with me, it's like, where does the want for the clicks stop, and where do ethics come in? And it feels like he's ignoring that, and that grinds my gears. Not just as someone who is studying journalism and wants to be a successful sports journalist, but just as a person, it really it ticks me off. But shall we move on from the Steve and Simmons?
Yes.
And the ugly. Yeah. Good.
The Steve,
right.
the Sim. Did you say the Steve, the Simmons, and the ugly? Is that what you said?
Okay. No, I'm not going to.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
The good, the bad, the Carey Price, what a beautiful man he is.
I don't know if that.
Love you.
We can work on this.
If you want to know what I just said randomly, love you, and it sounded like I touched something, it's because, guys, of course, I touched my Carey Price picture. And if you want to see stuff like that, or the weird faces the guys give me when I do weird stuff like that, you should definitely go check out the YouTube channel for a type of visual experience of the podcast. It's another element. See how we look. We're beautiful. Why not? Daniel's got his mustache going. It looks fantastic. Remember those shirts we talked about? We can talk about the shirts. You can see the shirts. Why not? Yeah. But we'll move on to some more hockey stuff, and it's the weekly edition of What's Going On with the Hub Cities, guys. And we'll also talk a bit about what's going on with Phase 3 and 4. There's some Larry Brooks stuff, some Elliot Friedman stuff, but I'm going to start off, guys, reading off 2 tweets from my man, my myth, my legend, Pierre Lebrun of TSN. Love him, great guy, French guy. Quote, my understanding is that the NHL has cut the list of hub cities to 6 teams from the original 10. The list still includes all 3 Canadian cities. My sense is Vancouver and Edmonton rank ahead of Toronto. Obviously,
Good.
Vegas remains in the mix. This is now the second tweet. The hope/expectation is the NHL/NHLPA to agree on the 2 hub cities by the end of this upcoming week. Time is of the essence. The league needs to negotiate deals with both hub cities, hotels, etc. once selected, guys.
That's true.
So I guess we can start off talking here that with the fact that we've had a few states in the United States that are spiking with COVID cases, and people started asking this question, so I'll ask it to you two. We'll start off with Alex this time. Is there a real possibility that we could see a 1-2 combo with a Canadian city, or do you really think it will be a Canadian and they'll stick with Las Vegas?
I think they're going to stick with Las Vegas. I really think the players might push for staying in Las Vegas. That's just my opinion.
And I don't think anyone needs to explain why Vegas is such a great spot now. If they're going to be able to go to the casinos, probably not, but still, it's Vegas, great hotels. What about you, Daniel?
Yeah, it's a bit like, like we've talked about this so many times, where it's the capacity to kind of house these players and like the staff, and just like the sheer size of it. I have to go with Vegas. Like, there's no other city I could think of right now where it's possible for this amount to happen. I'm not sure about the Canadian ones, to be honest. Bit iffy on it what's happening the last week or so on that front.
It's definitely been that. Of course, Edmonton, I think, has the lowest deaths of not entire of Canada, but especially compared to Ontario and Quebec. And of course, it's Edmonton. It's not that. It's not booming, right? And it's kind of just out in the middle of. It's Edmonton. It's
Edmonton, yes.
Yeah, like it's no offense, but it's Edmonton. And then Vancouver has just been very good with COVID cases all along. And we've obviously talked about Toronto at length, and we don't need to do that again. But there is a very small part of me, and I will emphasize, if safety can happen, that would love it if they do decide to go to Canadian cities, that if they went Toronto and Vancouver and Edmonton loses out, because they've been so, everyone, reporters, fans, politicians have been so wanting Edmonton to be a hub city. And the worst part is, it makes sense that Edmonton would be one. Not Rexall Place, but I think it's Rogers Place.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at like a plan of everything around there, and like the Marriott's right there. Like it's fantastic. I don't know why you wouldn't go there, but I would laugh at Edmonton. I won't lie.
Is it Rogers Place? I know there's the Rogers Center. Then the Vancouver one is Rogers as well, and then the Edmonton one is Rogers too, right?
Is it Rogers Center where the Jays play?
Yes.
Okay, all right. It should be the Sky Dome's such a good name, by the way. I also wonder, guys. So we know the 3 Canadian cities being Vancouver, Edmonton, Toronto, Las Vegas. I wonder who the other 2 hub cities still
Chicago.
in consideration are. You think?
I think so. I think I'm going to pull up Illinois' numbers right now, but I remember, I think I sent you the screenshot too that Chicago was making a big push. And I think that maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I remember reading it. But they seem like the most West team.
Yeah.
In the East.
West.
The most Eastern West team. So I think it would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask this as well before we go to before I go to Larry Brooks' tweet. So I think originally I saw it on the Score. Mike sent me this article, and then I think it was yesterday, Alex, you talked to me about it as well. That the NHL want the Eastern teams to play in the Western hub city if it does work out perfectly, and the Western teams to play in the East because they don't want the teams to have a home ice advantage if you are one of those hub city hosts. And I understand because like a team knows their rink better than everyone else, like if a puck goes down off the board or something. But in all reality, can we talk about how stupid that is?
Yeah, it's a bit of weird.
It goes
kind of instance.
It goes completely against the time zone thing. Like, remember we were talking about the whole time zone incident and saying, okay, wait, you're going to have Toronto in the West and having them play at 11 o'clock at night?
I don't care about the time zone stuff, to be honest with you guys. I think anyone who makes the argument of, the time zones, I just kind of don't take them seriously because, guys, there's going to be more than 1, 2, 3 games a day.
And I don't think the NHL is stupid enough to have teams like Montreal, like Toronto, like New York playing at 11 o'clock at night.
Well, you say that the Habs had a few afternoon games on Saturday, I'll tell you. But sorry, Daniel, what about you? The thoughts of like, hey, let's move all these players. Additionally, we're worried about COVID cases. Let's also move them to the other side of the country. Maybe a bit of
I feel like, it's like unnecessary like length of movement I find for these guys. I think I kind of thought about too, like, for example, like hypothetically, if Toronto's chosen as a hub city, it is kind of like, it is going to, I don't know, I feel like in a city like this, if it's hockey, it's still going to be embraced regardless.
Yeah.
I have this thing where like more people are going to be in the streets or something, like just wanting to have a look at the player, or, they're just excited the hockey's back.
Yeah.
No matter what the team is.
The streets regardless.
Yeah.
See, this is what I find very interesting because, Daniel, you talked about how you were driving around, it was like a normal day. I was at Home Depot having to get a fan because my room's air conditioning is crap. And I was terrified going in because it was so busy. And I was talking about this with my family. My mom brought up a really good point, and she said, watch parties. People are going to have watch parties about this, and it's going to be insane. And again, and for also those saying, I'm not going to watch a game if they're playing at like 3 p.m. What else are you doing right now? Okay. I don't think you're doing it. I'm struggling to play Skyrim all day, all right, guys? Like, you have time to watch hockey.
My question is it the NHL's responsibility to say, our fans are going to do – like, you really I can't see them making that a consideration, saying our fans are going to be in the streets, our fans are going to be doing that. I don't know if that's something they necessarily have to worry about.
I think it comes at – sorry. It just comes at a time that, like, I feel it too, like, I agree with Alex, where, like, the league does not have the control, but at the same time, too, I just kind of feel that what we talked about before, where when people see things are opening up, they're like, oh, man, let's go do it, kind of thing. Like, I think it's just going to be, like, you're just going to have to say, I feel like wait and see kind of thing. Like, when we talk about these watch parties, like, I would love to meet up with you guys, get a Golden Star burger and watch a game. But no, we're not going to do that because
have you guys done anything? Like, I know, Daniel, you're Richmond Hill is in phase 2. Pickering is in phase 2 now. Yeah.
Yeah, they finally moved on, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, so did we. So did we. Have you guys done anything? Like, I know you went to Home Depot.
We picked up some because there was across the street from where I live. There's a really good pub, but we didn't go. Like we ordered the food and picked it up. Like we didn't
Not sit outside.
God, no, I'm not going to do that.
Oh, I already did that.
I've been on socially distant bike rides with up to 2 friends.
And have you wiped out at all in the past few weeks?
No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah.
I've been better. Yes, for the listeners, yes, there was a bit of an incident 2 weeks ago on my bike around Finch Station, but all is good now.
Good.
That was before the Harmon Dial episode, was it not?
Yes.
Oh. All right. I know we wanted to try and aim to finish the episode. I think it was like 150. So let's try and move on here. Just to finish off the phase 3 and 4 talks, I'll just read you guys 2 tweets. One from Larry Brooks. That's what I'm saying, Brooksy.
I almost said Larry Bird. Sorry.
No, not Larry. No, Larry Brooks. So I'm saying, have you ever thought? We just have you challenge me. I'm gonna stop quoting John Tortorella. So from Larry Brooks on Twitter, quote from NHL GM meetings. This is the New York Post. Post has learned that training camp is set for 2 weeks with teams traveling to respective hub cities on July 23rd or 24th before playing one exhibition game. The Stanley Cup tournament that begins with qualifying rounds is scheduled to begin on July 30th, which just go against the whole idea that it was going to start in August, but of course plans change. We won't dwell too much on that, but that's a report. Larry Brooks, normally pretty reputable source. And also finish off with a tweet from Elliot Friedman, the man, the myth, the legend, whose beard is banned from the show. Quote, the 2 Vs, Vancouver, Vegas, maybe next 2 weeks, hub selections, lottery, players vote on protocol, CBA framework, all while we monitor testing results. So, guys, there's a lot to keep your eye on for the next 2 weeks especially. Probably a make or break 2 weeks for return to play being on schedule. But we'll finish off with, we have 2 more things because we have an 05 redraft that we've been meaning to do for about a month. We want to talk about the idea of canceling the season and coming back in fall.
Yeah.
And Alex, you very much wanted to talk about this, so I think you should start.
Yeah, because I've seen it multiple times previously, and I know it was brought back up again with the 11 cases coming out of the NHL. I just don't see that being a possibility simply because, and I think obviously the NHL wants to have fans in seats as soon as they can. But the whole reason that we're trying to get this before September is because they're trying to get behind the second wave. And as soon as it starts to get cold, that's the expectation is that, yeah, we can start phase, even if we do the regional approach, the phasing and approach, like Ontario is doing. And like most of, I believe the rest of Canada is doing the same thing. Everyone's just at different stages. There's still the chance that one of the ways the virus spreads again is that when it's cold, it becomes stronger. At least that's my understanding. I'm not a scientist, so I'm just going to say that's my understanding.
But you're using science in the explanation, which is all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. So there's still that chance. So I don't think the NHL cancels the season and then starts a new one in September. I don't think that was their plan from the beginning, and I don't think that's an option for them.
Mm-hmm. Daniel. Yeah,
I kind of feel it too, where it's just at this point, the way things have been going, they have this momentum where they're like, it'd be kind of a weird thing where like, let's just cancel it all after all these plans we've kind of done. With things, mm-hmm. It's not about like just saving face, but it's a kind of I guess, expectation that they've already told, like, not just the fans, the stakeholders, the players, the staff, all these things that they want to get this done. And I kind of agree with Alex, like the same thing he said about getting this done before the second wave kind of thing. It's more feasible, I think, with the NBA and the NHL because they've already had the majority of their season and can get some things done. It's still some semblance of a intact playoff run. Like the baseball leagues have been talking about that too, where like there's certain doctors that are saying that you guys have to get the season done before October, before it gets cold. It's like they haven't played a regular season game yet. So, you know, it is like a slippery slope kind of thing. Like when all of this kind of happened and they said, okay, we're canceling this. Like, okay, you know, understood. We see the severity of it, but now at a point where there's two things: the momentum, and their second, where they've come out with all these official statements already.
One thing I worry about is, because I won't lie to you, I've been on the side of almost like, is it worth it? Something I've been asking myself. Because even Bob McKenzie was on Overdraft, the Bob father, and he said that it was not, and I'm going to paraphrase here, he said that it wasn't the majority, but there are a number of players who do not want to come back because they don't feel safe. And I don't think what the league or what the fans want matters if all of a sudden your players do not feel safe, because like unsafe work environment, unions, that's going to stop you dead in your tracks. Right. And I do not want, like, for example, I always mention this. Carey Price, his wife is pregnant.
Yeah.
She's now due, I believe it's in like fall, right? He's not going to want to put her in jeopardy, or anyone is who has a family. Like, like Alex Pietrangelo has triplets. Like, he's not going to want to put them in, like, even if you can make, younger people not. No, shut up. Of the younger people not being at risk. At the end of the day, if the players, and knowing the players, they didn't even have the balls to say no, we don't want a 24-team playoff except for 2 teams. If they start saying no, we don't want this, I would 100% stand with the players there, and I would say then if they don't want it, then I think you need to close it down. That's just my opinion, though.
So then they have to actually voice their opinion instead of telling insiders,
yes, which is something they don't do.
No.
Right. So if they can't say anything, whose problem is it?
Oh, then it's theirs, yeah.
Right.
Sir, I'm just saying.
No, you're absolutely right. Like,
I know.
Yeah, it comes again. We were talking about this an hour ago. Same situation. They don't want to say anything because they're scared, or whatever the reasoning is. They don't want to be different.
Hockey
which is why the sport is so behind every other sport in the world.
That's true. All right, guys. We might get finished before
maybe.
150, actually. Okay, main event, a ring-a-ding-ding. We did do that. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry if you can hear the paper rattling. We'll finish off, guys, with the 2005 NHL entry draft, all-in-one redraft, just for some back information, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, the 05 NHL entry draft. Looking at it, the top 10, top 15 especially is a case of ups and downs. The ups being, you may have heard of him, Sidney Crosby, Carey Price, Anze Kopitar at 12 or 11, I believe.
11, yeah.
11, yes.
Yes.
Then the lows are low of Gilbert Brulé, Luc Baudin, just a few names. Jack Johnson's high on that draft, I believe. Look how that turned out. But then
Montreal Canadiens, great. Benoit Pouliot.
Yes. But then you definitely see, hey, you can't make fun of Montreal in this draft. You cannot. You can say what you want. I'm not letting it happen because they got their winningest goalie in history. So you can make your Pouliot jokes all you want. Yeah. But in all seriousness, this draft is also unique because even those guys who didn't turn into the players we expect, like Jack Johnson, still to this day have had long, and we may make fun of his advanced analytics, but is still a great player who has played so many games. I'm wary to say lots of money in Jack Johnson's case.
Yeah.
Because, his parents kind of suck, but still, like, some great NHL players. So, guys, first of all, actually, I was going to ask, what did you think of this draft? But then for once, we care about time. So we'll start off here. Number one, we Sidney Crosby, right? Like, we all said Sidney Crosby.
Yes.
There's no point. Okay, good.
It was a bit of a tough one here, guys, but
Stop.
Yeah.
Stanley Cup, Conn Smythe. He's the most famous hockey player in the world.
How many Conn Smythes does he have? 3 or 2?
2. It's only 2.
He should only have 1, though. Phil Kessel deserved that one.
Because Malkin had the 09 one, yes.
Yeah,
and then Sid had the other 2.
Should have been Marc-Andre Fleury. No,
should have been Phil Kessel.
Hey, I don't want Sid to get another one because he ties a wall for the most in history. We don't need that. Okay, number 2, who did you guys have? We'll start with Daniel.
I have Bobby. No. I have Carey Price.
Hey, let's go. Why?
Yes, so do I.
Obvious reasons, like we joke about it because we don't really talk about it too much, Alex and I feel, because Adam gives enough of the Carey Price fandom. So what we got, he is like, I still think now, like despite the injuries and how the team has performed, he's still one of the best goalies.
He's still a top 5 goalie in the NHL.
Yeah, like he's still good. He's going to be a Hall of Famer regardless if there's a cup or not.
He could lose the rest of his games.
Yeah, and he'll still be in the Hall of Fame.
Still be in the Hall of Fame.
Just quickly bring it up. Carey Price today has 348 wins, a career. I'm going to close Hockey DB. The year he won the Hart, the only goalie to win the Hart, the Vezina, the Jennings, and the Lindsay all in the same year. Only goalie ever do it. 44 wins, a Habs record. A .933 save percentage. A 1.98 goals against average.
Is that his career?
No. His career, I think his like career.
Oh, that's the one game. That's the 1 year. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the year when he did everything.
Yeah.
And that's the same. That was the year he won the Lou Marsh.
Yeah.
The most wins by a Canadians goaltender. Jacques Plante, Patrick Waugh. I know Daniel's going to say Jose Theodore, but I'll say it now so you don't get it. By the way, I have Carey Price in number 2 as well.
How about Yaroslav Halak?
He was all right. He was good.
He was okay.
It's a reason the Capitals. Keith Kincaid, who played some ECHL games this year, I believe.
Anthony Niemi.
Don't bring
Stanley Cup winner. Anthony
I remember it was a game against Tampa Bay. Montreal lost 6-5. Tampa scored with like a minute left. Anthony Niemi was in that game, and he couldn't make a save. We win that game. If we had a backup that was 20% better than Anthony, not 5% better, the Habs make the playoffs that year.
Anthony Niemi or Garrett Sparks?
Anthony Niemi, man, honestly, I don't know. They're both cut from the same cloth of garbage.
Anthony Niemi has the cup, though, I know he had that superstar team around in 2010.
I was to say, he was a block. Okay, we'll move on, though.
Okay, number 3.
Daniel, I went to Daniel for number 2. Alex, who did you have at number 2? Number three. We could talk about Carey Price more if you guys want. Number 3, who'd you have, Alex?
Anze Kopitar.
All right.
I think he's two-way, right? He's that really good two-way center, and I think him and Doughty and yes, Jonathan Quick. Okay, I'll give it to Jonathan Quick. We're really there for that big push for all of those cup runs.
Yeah, 2012, 2014, even when they lost to the Blackhawks in the conference finals. Selke Trophy for Anze Kopitar. What about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I also have Kopitar here. I think we sometimes forget, a lot of people forget that, because of how bad the Kings have been recently, of how good he is. Even if he's only putting up 57 points in a season, his two-way game is I'll say second to Bergeron in this regard. I really like Anze Kopitar. I think he's a franchise center. It's just I think we just have to remember those cup runs.
I think for his generation, I think for his generation, I think now there's a group of players, Deneau, Sorelli, Couturier. Still Bergeron, or even O'Reilly. Still Bergeron is still could be argued as number 1. No, I don't know if I'd say the same thing about Kopitar if he's still up there.
But for his prime, it was great. It was amazing to see.
Yeah. I've told you guys that Erik Karlsson, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Vlad Tarasenko are the first players who I started rooting for them were in Habs. Kopitar was always one. You say, Daniel, only 57 points. That's on the Kings.
Yeah.
He is so good. When Bob Gainey was the GM of the Habs, he tried to get Kopitar for years. And by the way, Anze Kopitar, best dog in the league. Go look it up. But we'll go on. Number 4, where I have Marc-Edouard Vlasic. Est-ce qu'il est très bien? Il est né à Québec. Et il a un bon name. Marc-Edouard Vlasic Picole.
Weren't the Canadians rumored with Vlasic at the beginning of the season?
Right.
That would have been fun.
I mean, I'd like to imagine that he would have been a bit better, like new scene, but we can argue all I want. We've had plenty of debates about Marc-Edouard Vlasic, but everyone on San Jose was bad this year, except like Thomas Hertl.
You really love that guy. I remember you even put him on the Olympic team or the Canadian team.
I did.
Yeah.
But I like Vlasic.
He is great.
He always
good junior boy.
Yeah, a great reception in Montreal all the time as well. Okay, who did you guys have at number 4? Daniel, Emmanuel.
I had Tuukka Rask.
Fair.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say that. I mean, like, he was drafted by the Leafs in this draft. But, yeah, he already has the accolades 2011 Cup, Vezina Trophy. He made a first NHL All-Star team. He's been to the All-Star games. He has a Wilming Jennings Trophy from this year. Yes, this year. Yeah. I remember watching him. I knew he was going to be good. That's why I was shocked that the Leafs traded him. I remember he won goalie of the tournament at the World Juniors for Finland. And I'm like, man, this is a guy I'm definitely going to try to follow.
What a joke.
And then you follow him all the way.
It should definitely be tampering, because then John Ferguson Jr. went to Boston.
I know. See, it's tampering.
Yeah, number 4, I have Rask as well. And he's an interesting guy because lately he's been part of that 1A, 1B type system where he's not necessarily playing 60, 65 games a year. He's playing closer to 50. But before that, yes, every goalie has their off years, right? Every goalie. Mm-hmm. But this guy was damn good, and I wish he was a Leaf. But
interesting fact, but he actually in franchise history is the winningest goalie ever in Leafs history of a draft pick, but he never played for them.
Okay, well,
he beat Felix Potvin this year.
Good.
I love
let's just move past that.
Yeah, okay.
Alex, who'd you have at 5th?
Number 5, I have Marc-Edouard Vlasic. As much as I trash Marc-Edouard Vlasic, he was a damn good defenseman.
Yeah, constant. Him and Jay Bouwmeester were always those quiet the quiet team candidate guys that we knew nothing about. Dan.
I have Chris Letang.
Chris.
Yes. Always been a fan of him. I'm gonna say again, former World Junior captain. But yeah, despite all the stuff he's kind of gone through, the injuries, the stroke, he's come back to win it. He's been I think an amazing defenseman. I think he's worth the money. I've always cheered for him. The fact that the Penguins got Crosby and Letang in this draft is pretty insane. But yeah, also prototypical right-hand shot offensive defenseman, and I always cheer for the guy.
Mm-hmm. Good looking dude. Good looking. Yeah. So it's funny you bring up Letang here because I don't have him 5th. I actually have Keith and Yandel. And sorry to jump ahead here, but I'm going to say my 5th and 6th because there's a reason I do this. Because I have Letang at 6th.
Yeah.
And I was looking at their numbers, right? And Yandel does have more points, but it's only because of how many games Letang has lost. And by the way, no one talks about how good Keith Yandel is, by the way. For some reason, we talk about how funny he is, and that's it.
And his Iron Man. Isn't he on an Iron Man streak?
Yes, he is. That's very true. Which is a very big asset. The complete opposite of Letang, unfortunately. And knowing how unfortunate Letang has been with injuries, again, but massive credit for recovering from what he has. I've put Yandel ahead of him, but massive respect to both. So, Alex, why don't you just give me your 5th and 6th, and then we'll go to Daniel for his 6th.
I need to do 6th and 7th. I already did my 5th.
Oh, you did? Oh, well. Then Daniel, give us your 6th, and we'll go to Alex for 6th and 7th. Daniel? Oh, no. Oh, no.
Damn it.
Oh,
so close.
Oh, God. He's frozen. He's dead.
Okay, let's pause it again.
All right. Technical difficulties. Anyway, Daniel, your 6th overall pick.
I have Marc-Edouard Vlasic. Same reasons why we talked about before. Yeah, it's kind of guy he's never made an all-star team, but he's just been such a consistent guy. We've even argued that even in his he's 32, 33 now, he still would have made an Olympic, a hypothetical Olympic team. Yeah, well, we did, but yeah, despite everything San Jose's kind of been through this year, I still see him as a piece you move with going forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Alex, you needed to combo your 6 and 7, huh?
Yeah, I had the same thing as Adam, but just a different order. At 6th, I had Chris Letang, and at 7th, I had Keith Yandel.
Mm-hmm. All right. Then while you're here, that's not like because you just gave your. Okay.
Okay.
Daniel.
7th.
7.
7th, Keith Yandel. Same thing we talked about, that Ironman streak over 800 games. It's pretty crazy. What I kind of found unfortunate with him is that, the majority of his career has been played with the Coyotes and the Panthers, and no one really talks about him too much, to be honest. I thought he was going to get that fair shot of, I guess, the spotlight in a way when he was with the Rangers, but that didn't really pan out too much for them, and he was kind of shipped to the Panthers. Still a really underrated guy, 4th-round pick here, and I think this is one of the biggest deals.
Yeah.
All right, number 8. I've got.
You didn't even give your 7th.
Oh, I didn't. Oh,
No.
Tuukka Rask. For reasons said before, fantastic goalie. He's been to the Cup final a few times. He's pretty decent, and he's Finnish, so he's got a great sense of humor. Even when he goes to throw his sticks and you just get he has a temper tantrum, but I like it. Okay.
I think the interesting thing about Yandel and Letang is that they can kind of be interchanged in a way. Like one can be 6th, one can be 7th. And I think for me, Letang got the edge just because of those cups with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They're both be power play quarterbacks. They're both right-handed and they're both offensive.
Mm-hmm. All right. Number 8, I have TJ Oshie because he is just so good. And man, if you want to talk about someone who delivers on a big stage, TJ Oshie, or should I say TJ Sochi?
Oh, he actually had a funny interview story where when he was just drafted, he was in university, and he's like, I knew nothing about the St. Louis Blues. And then he just started searching him up like crazy. And then I think when the GM at the time, I forgot his name, called him, he's like, yeah, I'm excited to play for your franchise. Yeah, great city. And he started listing guys. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, great city. I like to play with. And he's like going through the list. Al McInnes.
Wow.
But he's like, at the time, it was not like the way the draft was now, where he's like, I didn't even know I was going to get drafted.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Let alone in the first round.
Well, who do you have then, Alex?
I have Paul Stastny.
Paul Stastny, pretty good player.
Yeah, pretty good center. He's okay. I wish Winnipeg kept Paul Stastny.
I think that was a perfect fit, yeah.
That would have been their second line center.
I wish he had bothered to talk to the media after his 1000th game.
Fun fact about Paul Stastny.
What?
That first-round pick Winnipeg gave away for him became Rasmus Sandin.
Yes.
I think Steve Daigel's going to call you with a cease and desist for going after his trade trees.
No, it was. Because who did they – oh, man. Why am I
not – Dominic Bach. They used the Justin Falk trade.
Yes. That they used in the Justin Falk trade. And then they traded down. The Leafs traded down.
Because they wanted that other third rounder. It was like
Semyon Der Arguchintsev.
Yes, they got him.
Yeah, okay, it's a beast.
All right.
Robertson.
By the way, fun fact about Paul Stastny. Trying to sign him is the reason that Joel Armia is a Montreal Canadian, because they sent him
with Steve Mason.
Yeah, and then they still lost on him, so it was pretty jokes.
Nice.
Yeah, using cap to get assets. Who knew that?
Wait. Marc Bergevin doing something right?
Yeah.
Wow.
That doesn't make sense.
Anyway, who did I ask? No, go ahead. 8. No, I asked. Okay, Daniel. Who's on? Who's your 8?
My 8th.
Yeah, your 8th overall pick. Who do you have?
I actually had. It's pretty funny. I had that stud about TJ Oshie, but I actually had Ben Bishop here.
Big Ben.
Yeah, I think he was a late bloomer. His career didn't really take off until he went to Ottawa and then Tampa. But yeah, I still think even now he's a great goalie. Doesn't get as much recognition, I think, as he should. It's here and there because Govin plays a lot of games.
Doesn't he get Vezina? He was a talk for Vezina.
Man, the Vezina, but I think sometimes he doesn't get put in the top goalie conversations all the time. But I think, he's still here.
I think that might be because he doesn't play as many games, because in Dallas it's a split between him and Hudobin.
Mm-hmm.
So we're never going to see the Martin Brodeur 77 games a season.
No, you're not.
No.
You're out of Montreal and you might get that wish.
Yeah, maybe.
Stand back up. Okay, then Daniel, who do you have at number 9 if you've got Big Ben at 8?
I have Paul Stastny, as we've talked about before.
Paul.
I don't know. I always forget. I said this so many guys. This has been, this is a 15-year-old draft. I always forget how good Paul Stastny was. Remember when Colorado were rolling out him, Duchesne, and Ryan O'Reilly.
It's insane to think about their center depth.
Yeah. And how kind of dissipated. I mean, they have McKinnon and Kadri pretty solid, but I mean, at the time before the McKinnon era, just to have that center depth and get it through the draft, with getting Stastny and O'Reilly in the second round is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and then getting McKinnon.
Yeah,
that's just really insane. He's had a bit of a downward spiral kind of thing. I feel like when he went to St. Louis, he was severely overpaid. But then he redeemed himself in Winnipeg, and I think he settled nicely in Golden. And I was about to say Golden State. He settled well with the Golden Knights.
Yeah, he transitioned to basketball.
Yeah.
And went a lot better than Michael Jordan's transition to baseball, to say that at least. Okay, number 9, guys. Or Alex, Alex, did I get your... No, I did. Okay, number 9, Alex.
TJ Oshie.
TJ Yoshi.
Yeah, same reasons as you guys talked about before, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good player.
He is pretty damn good. Okay, Daniel, number 9.
Okay, number 9, I have... This is a hard word. I mean, okay, so, I think before I say my 9... can I just go with my 9 and 10 here?
Yeah, just go. That's fine.
Okay, so... By this point, I kind of felt that, you had really good players still on the board, but these are guys who I felt that they really excelled in certain environments, or it's like a situation that was well catered to them. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's either they blossomed early in their career with this set system, or as they got older, they excelled in this set system. So, I know you guys can think I'm biased here. Okay, so I'm going to go with TJ Oshie. Okay. I didn't really think anything about it. I remember Jeremy Roenick talked about how he should have made the 2010 Olympic team, but he didn't really show too much for it. He's a bit of a late bloomer university guy, and I think he really took off with Washington. So, but that's a perfect system for him. The role he plays. I know he's made all-star games, but I think it's because of the environment is why he makes all-star games. He's not a franchise guy. So I have TJ Oshie at number 9. Also for that epic story of being drafted. I love it.
Yeah.
And
then who do you have at number 10?
Number 10, I have Bobby Ryan. I needed to add him to this list. I think a lot of people too now, they talk about, his personal struggles. We always hope that he's well. But at the same time too, he didn't really bring it when he came to Ottawa. He still had pretty solid seasons at around 50 points. And, he went off for that cup run, not cup run, but that Eastern Conference final run. He still contributed, even no matter what people say. That I know Erik Karlsson literally carried the team with 1 foot. But we forget that this guy had 4 seasons of 30 goals. And a lot of people could say it's because he played with Getzlaf, but I'll look back how we talked about with Corey Perry winning the Hart and the Rocket Richard Trophy in 2011. That was the season where Getzlaf had his season-ending injury. So to propel that team, it was Perry and Ryan and a 44-year-old Timo Solane. But he still excelled without a top-line center.
That's true.
And he still put up 71 points.
I like it. Then Alex, why don't you give us your 9 and 10 then?
I already gave you my 9, so I just have to give you my 10. Ben Bishop. I think he was a little bit of a late bloomer, but I really think he settled down in Tampa and then brought his talents to Dallas.
It's weird how much Ben Bishop won around in his early career. It was like a Sen, a King. It's insane to think where he was. Okay, I'll go my 9 and 10 as well. Well, I mean, what else is there to do now? At number 9, I had Benjamin Bishop. I've always been a big fan of Ben Bishop, especially when he ended Montreal's playoff hopes in 2015. Thank you for laughing at us. God, they could not score on that guy. And then, of course, at number 10, I have Paul Stastny. I did have Jonathan Quick at 10, but I was like, yeah, no, I don't know what I'm thinking there. I think he deserves an honorable mention, though.
Yeah, James Neal's one, I think. Remember that 82-point season he had with 81-point season he had with the Penguins? That was crazy.
Yeah.
He played on Malkin's line.
Okay, then, because do you guys want to mention your honorable mentions?
Quick honorable mentions, quickly.
Okay.
I have Andrew Cogliano, just because his Iron Man streak, and he's a damn good player. Anton Strawman, James Neal, Bobby Ryan, Jonathan Quick, and Nicholas Hjalmarsson.
I have a similar list.
Good demon. Fantastic. All right, guys.
Patrick Hornquist. That's one I got.
Yes, I forgot, but I just looked at the list. Patrick Hornquist.
But he's a system guy, too. You know what I mean? Like, he knows his role in Pittsburgh.
He was the last pick, was he not?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Are we good then, lads?
I think
good.
so.
This was a fun episode.
Was. Okay, well then. Hey, you. Yeah, you. The lovely listener. Did you love the show? Of course you did. What am I even saying? But in all seriousness, if you enjoyed the show, this episode specifically, and you want to show your support, there's plenty of ways that you can do so. Follow the show, subscribe to it on wherever you're listening to it, of course. If you're on iTunes, why not? Go leave a 5-star rating. Maybe even a review if you're feeling a little saucy. Why not? You can also check out the show's Instagram and Facebook pages. Why not? You can do that as well. You can also check out the 2-on-1 Podcast official YouTube channel. And while you're on YouTube, go check out my Habs-centered one for all your Montreal Canadian content needs. New video coming soon. And then finally, you can, of course, check out the show. Oh, wait, hold on. You can also check out all 3 of our social medias. That will all be in the link in the description below. I finally wrote a script for the ending part, by the way. Still got to polish it up.
Do you want to tell everyone what we're doing on Friday?
That is a good point, Alex. I will do that. Is it this Friday? Yes, it is. Because, okay. So, guys, special announcement. This Friday is, of course, the first NHL draft lottery. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be live streaming it, our, little reaction watch party over Zoom, and Mike will be part of it. So that will be fun. I think Alex is worrying about the technical stuff. He'll be Jesse Blake. But yeah, keep your eyes out for that.
Jamie. No, nothing. It's Joe Rogan. Just making.
What snacks you guys bringing for the show?
Snacks.
I'm making a pizza. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, pizza party.
Pizza party.
Pizza party.
I don't know what I'll get. Maybe I'll make some pancakes or something. I don't know. All right. Bye then, everyone.
Bye.